What is up, guys? Thank you so much for being here. I'm really happy to be making another video. It's been a pretty busy fall and certainly an incredibly busy summer, but I'm super stoked to be back here making this, and there's a lot more to come after this video. Hope you guys enjoy some of these summer adventures, and keep an eye out for a Texas and Australia video coming very soon. On our way up to Butterbrett to camp at the base of the area before our morning of birding, we lucked into running into this super sweet sidewinder, which is one of my favorite snakes in all of North America and never gets old. We headed to Butterbrett Spring because of the effect called migrant traps, where suitable habitat for migrating birds is basically surrounded by tons of unsuitable habitat, and so that means that when there is this like small area with water or a canopy or understory, you can get a lot of birds coming to it, and that's one of the best ways to find vagrants in the right season. And so we were looking for them at Butterbrett, and we did in fact come up with a Kentucky warbler, which is a really awesome bird to see in California. On our way back to Los Angeles from Butterbrett, Russell and I were talking about how it would be a really good time of day for a Mojave patchnose snake, which neither of us had ever seen. And sure enough, we totally called it because we got one, a couple miles down the road from Butterbrett. It was a little feisty at times, but a super gorgeous snake with those silvery tones and the subtle orange mixed in. And so this was just a really great way to cap off the day, especially after finding a Kentucky warbler. As always, with any snakes we find, we are always sure to release them and put them in the direction they were headed. We did a good bit of road cruising this summer, and one of the first lifers for Russell and I was this California lyre snake, which is a really cool species. They've got the little slit cat eyes. You also see in night snakes and some other different species outside of the U.S. These guys are interesting because they're rear fang venomous, which means that they do have some venom, but A, they'd have to really chew on you to actually inject that venom, and B, it's not particularly dangerous. People might have a very small reaction to it, but it's certainly not something that approaches the venom of any of the deadly snakes in North America. It's hard to pick up on video, but these lyre snakes also have a little bit of iridescence, which is really sick. This leaf nose snake was also a lifer for Russell and I. Here it was trying to do sort of a defensive posture to make itself look bigger and scarier than it really is. But yeah, this was another productive night of cruising that produced a lifer snake for us. Here's a better angle of the leaf nose that gives it its name. This is used for getting underground and is a good way for them to dig and work their way into the desert sand. Western banded geckos are always one of my favorite little dudes to run into. They're super quick and tiny, but also have really nice intricate patterning and a lot of personality. So always keep an eye out for these when you're road cruising. Rosie frickin' Boa. This coastal Rosie Boa was a lifer for me and Valerie, and the first time Russell had cruised his own, and we were frickin' ecstatic to see this gorgeous animal. It was about 1 a.m. and we were kind of wrapping up for the night, and then on our last pass we got it. You can see its little knob tail there. Some kind of predator probably had messed with it at some point, but just a stunning constrictor, and we'd worked hard all summer and also back in the spring trying to find one of these, so just was so happy to finally see the snake. It also has some history for me because I got into birdwatching through my teacher, Mr. Anderson, who would he had a collection of pet snakes, and the only time that I could go hold those snakes was during the birdwatching club, and one of those snakes was a Rosie Boa. And when I would go hold that Rosie Boa, I knew that this was an animal I really wanted to encounter in the wild. Rosie Boas certainly don't have the most impressive camouflage out of some of the snakes out there, but you can definitely see how they kind of match the pattern of various rocks they might crawl on. Definitely has a similar pattern going, and yeah, it was really nice to watch it move around late in the night under the stars before we let it go. Here's another super nice leaf-nosed snake that we saw on a different night when we took Omar out on his first road cruising expedition. That same night we also got some killer looks at spotted owl in San Diego County, which was a great way to round off a herping and birding night. On its way. So for the next part of this video, we're mostly focused on Grunion, which I'll talk a lot about soon, but here are some sea hares that we saw in Malibu before we looked for the Grunion. These are a type of massive sea slug. So during full or new moons, in the late spring, summer, and early fall, a crazy phenomenon happens where hundreds and hundreds of small silver fish called Grunion come to the California beaches to spawn. They're small and silvery and native to coastal waters in Southern California and Baja California. Well known for this crazy behavior where they lay their eggs on sandy beaches, lay and fertilize their eggs. And so it's just a crazy scene where you see, depending on the night, it can vary, depending on the tide and the moon and all that, but it can be just massive amounts of them. This night that we're filming here certainly had quite a few individuals, but there are nights with way more. And if you noticed in one of those clips, those little orange, that little orange substance was actually several eggs, and they can lay between 1,000 and 3,000 eggs per spawning event. And then, so they kind of end up getting washed back into the water after they do their thing. Unfortunately, some of them don't make it back into the water, depending on how far they're pushed out. But this is their process. They, bury themselves like that, hope a male comes along and fertilizes the eggs, and then try to make a mad dash back to the water. I've seen quite a few pretty wild wildlife spectacles, and this was definitely up there for one of the craziest things I've ever watched in terms of large gatherings of animals. It was so cool to be a part of it, not far from Los Angeles. Just looking at the night sky and the ocean, listening to the sounds of the water, and seeing just tons and tons of these gorgeous little fish. So California Grunion are awesome. If you ever have a chance to do a Grunion run, do it for sure. Thank you so much for watching and sticking with us for another video. I hope you enjoyed it, and as I said, keep an eye out for some more content coming very soon.